and we haven't even got the firm yet. We have to keep him in mind later. Maybe we need to just stop for a moment so I can discuss what's on the board, and then we'll move forward from that. All right, so what feelings do you have? And my suggestion to you is this. Write down the feelings associated with, like actually associated with love, and then let yourself try to feel what that feels like inside of yourself. That makes sense? Now, many of these things we don't necessarily feel. And many people find that they are actually using most of their addictions are about trying to get those feelings from somebody. So in other words, you don't feel like you're allowed to be expressive, so you're trying to get a feeling from somebody. So under those circumstances, anybody who lets you be expressive, you love, but anybody who doesn't, you hate. Right? Now, if you love, you wouldn't hate a person. So that tells you that you're seeking the allowance of being expressive, and that in that seeking, you're becoming addicted. It's meeting an addiction. So many of these feelings, when they're not satisfied inside of you, you then act in an addiction to obtain them. Right? Now, as soon as you act in an addiction to obtain it, it's no longer love. So when you say, let's say you're seeking, you want people to be generous with you, but nobody is, and you don't want to feel your grief about it. What you're going to do is you're going to look for people who are generous to you, and you're going to abuse them. In other words, what you're going to do is you're going to look around for people who have been generous to you in the past, and then you're going to take as much as you possibly can from them until their generosity dries up. Right? Now that's very different, isn't it, to having a continuous generous spirit with somebody. So this is emotion coming out of you towards somebody, but when you want it back in return, now you're in an addiction. Right? So when many of you list this list, you're going, oh, this is what I would love somebody to do for me. Does that make sense to you? You want these things from someone. Yep. But that isn't love. So all of these feelings are only love if they come out of you. And if they come out of another person towards you, undemanded, not bidden, not expected, but as a gift, then that is love. So you can put all of these feelings, and you can basically say when they are gifts, then they are love. Can you see that? But when they are expected, they are no longer love. So in order for love to actually work as an emotion, to be expressed, it has to be gifted rather than demanded, or responding to a demand. Does everyone follow that? Mm-hmm. It's very important you get this. It's very important you get this. See, what most of us are doing is saying, this is all what love is. And we go, yeah, I want that. You know? And this is how we go around the world wanting these things from everyone. Of course, we don't get it from many people because most of us are wanting it without giving it. Do you understand? If you have 8 billion on the planet now, isn't it? Pretty close. You have 8 billion people on the planet, and all of them want this. They all want love. but they don't want to give it, be the first to give it. So is it love that they're wanting? You see, if you really want love, you don't mind being the first to give it. You see? You don't mind giving it when nobody else does. So it is right to say that these things are all part of how you feel when you feel love. But it's not right to say that's how you feel when you love from somebody else. Because if you can feel these things if you're loved by somebody else, but if you've had a demand to receive them, then you're in an addiction with them and it's not a gift anymore, and therefore it's not love anymore. And this is where most of us are very confused about love. We can identify the emotions, these are all emotions, right? You can identify the emotions associated with love, particularly when you're loved. But you can't identify that these are the things that you would feel for everyone around you if you love them. That makes sense? If you loved them, this is what you would feel. So if we love God, this is what we would feel for God. For God, not from God, for God. Most of us are looking for these feelings from God. Right? But we're not feeling these feelings for God. And that's why we're not driven to put God first, because we want these feelings, but we're in addiction with most of them. And so we have these demands that we send out towards God, and of course God can't respond to the demand, because then it wouldn't be a gift that he's giving. It would be in response to your demand, which is no longer a gift. So he can't give you these feelings while you demand them. Does that make sense to everyone, logically? Yep. Jen, you want to ask?
I'm in an injured state.
Yep.
I can't do anything else but demand because of that injured state.
No.
No?
No, stop there. No. You're now saying that you're helpless, that you can't change you. Because you're saying, I can't do anything but do what my addictions demand. Yes, you can. You can do different to your addictions. You don't have to listen to your addictions. You don't have to follow them. You can do something completely different. You need to be honest with yourself. You want to have your addictions and you want your demands. You want your demands because you don't want to feel what it feels like not having this. Not having love. So what you do is you, in that place, in that injured place where you have all of these things you want, because you never had them, or you had a distorted view of them in the past. You have all these things you want, and so what you're doing now is you're going, I'm in this injured state. I should be able to have all those things. I should be able to get them all, and I'm helpless. I can't change the fact. I can't let go of anything inside of me that says that I don't deserve them all, is what you all believe. And the whole world believes this, right? If you say to the average person, what do you think are the main things that a person needs to survive when it comes to emotions? And they say, people need to love you. And no one has to love you. So how is that going to work? No one else has to love you. God doesn't have to love you. Right? How does that feel? For the average person, they feel angry about that. They feel like self-righteous about it. They feel like, what? You say nobody ever has to love me ever. Yes, that's what I'm saying. No one, including God, has to ever love you ever. God already has, by the way. So that's about what God has done, which we'll talk about tomorrow morning. But he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. For it to be love, in fact, it needs to be a gift, and therefore, by definition, it can't be that he has to. If he had to, then it wouldn't be a gift anymore, and therefore it wouldn't be love anymore. Right? And to say to yourself that I'm in an injured state, so I should be able to get some of these things, surely. No. I'm sorry, you should feel your emotions about your injured state, is what you should do, rather than having this self-righteous justification that this is what you should be able to get from others because you're in an injured state. Basically, many of us are using the fact that we didn't get these things as in a righteous rage. We're saying, I didn't get them, now anybody who claims to love me, that's what they've got to do for me. And as soon as you have that feeling, you are incapable of feeling love from another person. You're incapable. Your soul is completely dysfunctional in terms of love if you have that feeling. As soon as you have a demand coming out of you, one of your soul faculties is, as soon as that demand is present, the soul is now completely blocked to receiving love of any kind. That's how it works. That's one of the laws of love. As soon as you exercise a demand, love, it cannot enter your soul from anyone. Person, thing, God, anyone. As soon as you have a demand. Unless you understand that it's a gift, and unless you feel it's a gift, you have to feel it's a gift, right, in order for love to enter you. And as soon as you don't feel it's a gift, as soon as you have an expectation to receive it, you now are no longer capable of being loved, of not being loved in terms of the other person loving you, but capable of receiving it. You're incapable of even feeling it anymore as something that is of worth or value, because your soul is now completely blocked to receiving it. As soon as the demand is present. As soon as the expectation is present. Very interesting, hey? And this is why most people don't actually receive love. Because they have a demand for it. They want these feelings so badly that many of us have never really had them, and certainly not all of them, right? You think about in your life when all of these feelings were present when somebody loves you. How often has that occurred? And this is because we're so uneducated with love, we don't even know how to give those feelings to another person, right? We don't even know how to have those feelings for another person, actually. So we want these things, but we're not prepared to give them to others unless others have done it to us first. Which means we have an expectation, which means we're never going to receive them. Even if somebody does give it, we are still not going to receive them. Our soul does not work that way. Our soul must see it as a gift before it can be received. Which is an interesting fact about love, right? So at the back.
If we have a feeling towards someone, say of generosity,
Yep.
but then we're hurt or angry about the way that they receive it or whether they reciprocate it,
Then it wasn't love. Yep. The fact is, you can be generous with a person and then be generous again and be generous again and generous again. When you love them, you can be generous all the time. And you can even get to the stage where you no longer desire to be generous, but still don't feel angry. But as soon as you're now angry about it, it means you expected something in return. So now it's no longer a gift. Right? So that's like giving me a vehicle and I wreck it and you're angry. Right? Once you've given me the vehicle, if it's a true gift, I'm allowed to do anything with it, including wreck it. Of course, you might not give me another one afterwards, but that wouldn't be out of anger. It would just be it's useless giving him a gift because he just wrecks it. Right? It would be a logical decision, not an angry one.
So it's manipulative,
It's manipulative.
Yeah.
That's why it's also not love. Yep. Yeah. So it's very important to understand these things. Yep.
If you're excited for somebody or curious but don't act on it, are you still giving the gift?
No. So there's another thing about giving a gift. What is that?
Action.
Yeah, so you've actually got to give it.
So, like in an interaction, in some way, not just experience the feeling of it, sort of thing.
Yeah, and when you truly feel it inside yourself, you can actually feel it for somebody and they feel it, right? Which is what God does with you a lot. But it's a feeling you want to give the person. So therefore, you're taking an action to give that feeling to a person. It's sort of like, so when I feel my love for Mary, I not only just feel my love for her for myself, but I would like her to feel it too, right? So that means I feel it so powerfully that she, if she was open to receiving it without expecting it, because otherwise it wouldn't be felt, if she was open to receiving it without expecting it, she would automatically feel, oh, I'm very loved by Jesus. Does that make sense? But then, and on top of that, I would also probably be expressing that through action, wouldn't I? Yeah? If I have that opportunity, because you don't always have that opportunity, and in fact the other person may not always give you that opportunity either, but you can still have it inside of yourself and want to take the action.
So there's still love is still happening in some way, even if you don't.
That's right. But as soon as you have the feeling as, oh, the person's not responding and I'm upset, that wasn't love. Yeah.
Or I'm afraid to take an action on this
That's
because
not love
of
either.
how they might respond, then I'm not loving.
So if you feel excited but you're afraid to express it, that
That's not
excitement you feel isn't love.
No.
Okay. Or is it just shut down by the fear?
Well, anything there's no fear in love at all. So it's like,
Are they not two separate, the excitement feeling and the fear feeling, two separate things?
one is impossible to feel without the other. You can't feel truly excited
excited.
when you're afraid.
Okay.
You won't feel truly excited when you're afraid. You know, you're scared. You're not going to be excited. You're not going to act upon the excitement. You're not even going to feel it probably. Yeah. The law in governing how emotions operate in your soul disallow opposite emotions from existing at the same time. So, okay, so down the front and down the front to Robert, down interest.
Could you start to feel some of those qualities, say like curious or inquisitive about God or about someone, but not actually have a loving feeling yet, or is it?
Well, didn't we say that all of these sort of feelings or words that we're using here that describe feelings, didn't we say these are all part of love? So even you developing your first step of curiosity about God's nature is a start of you wanting or already starting to feel like some love for God. Does that make sense to you? And if you feel some care for Paul, that's you automatically feeling some love for Paul. Does that make sense? So when you feel any of these feelings, when you start feeling generous towards somebody, like there are times when you've been generous in the past, right? So just the feeling of generosity, not expecting anything in return, and you just want to give them a gift, well then in that moment you did feel some love. And if they were open to receiving it and didn't demand it, then they would receive that as your generosity, and they would experience the pleasure of your generosity. Make sense? The issue most of us have is that we don't maintain these feelings very much. We do have them occasionally, and we do have them occasionally in a pure state. They're just not maintained much. Because when we give them, sometimes we give them like through the excitement of our own heart, we give them, but then when we don't get something in return, then the angry thing comes in, and then we go, oh, now my gift, I expected something in return, and you start to be able to refine your love. So why do I have all these expectations with my love? Like, what's going on there? There's something wrong there, right? So I would work through all of that. In fact, the biggest work you can do on yourself is your love. Right? This is the thing that I've focused most of my attention on myself. How I love you. Make sense? Yeah? Not how you love me. Yeah.
I have two questions. First, if you're not receptive to receiving, to love, and you're not really ready to give it, like you're closed off to giving it, is it likely that you'll continue to feel a lot of pain even as you're opening to it? Meaning, like is there a lag in the feeling of like progress towards love, where it still might feel very painful?
So just go back to the beginning of your question.
Yep.
There were words you used. What were they? If I am not ready
or closed,
or I'm not open, you said.
not open.
Not open. So let's look at ready.
I know you don't have a good opinion about it.
It comes over on this column, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have a good opinion of that word. A lot of people nurse themselves through things a lot, so it's very selfish. And when you say to yourself you're not ready for something, it's because fundamentally you just want to continue your own behaviour as it is right now and you don't want to change it. And so fundamentally you're not being truthful with each other. But it's a very soft word too, isn't it? It's not like saying, I don't want to do this bloody thing. You know? Instead of saying that to yourself, you go, I'm just not ready. What sounds better to you?
Depends on the mood.
I'm in a rage about doing it, or
Well, I can
I'm
get
just
into
not ready.
I can get into a false passion about things too.
Well, true, but if you're honest with yourself, when you say, I'm just not ready, can you feel? I'll project it at you and see what you can feel. I'm just not ready.
It's just there's nothing to
How
it.
do I feel?
Angry.
And how else do I
Resistant.
feel?
Like it's on your terms.
Resistive, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Not open.
Justifying,
I'll shake that feeling off. Yeah. So it's a very stubborn feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is based on a rage internally, isn't it? So when we say I'm not ready, that's a soft way of saying it's a very it's a very disingenuous way of saying that I'm mad as a hatter about it. I'm very annoyed that I've got to do it, right? It's really a generous. It's really saying I'm just not ready. Is really a soft way of saying I can skip over the fact that I'm in a rage, right? And I'm stubborn and I'm resistive and I don't want to do it. And you know, you're far better off being honest with yourself and go, I just don't want to do it, rather than saying I'm not ready. Right?
But then, so just to connect to the question, like, if I'm being honest, or if anyone's honest about, I don't want to do it, but then doing it, like, will there be this experience of like,
No, you don't want to do it yet.
so then don't do it?
Well, you're not going to do it while you don't want to do it. It's not going to be a gift while you don't want to do
Right,
it.
it's not going to be a gift, but
So-
taking the step of trying.
Well, no, taking the step of confronting why you don't want it.
The reasons you're telling yourself
You
why
understand?
it's not good, or why you don't want to, or why you're not.
You know, when you say I'm not ready, we're not, ready yet. You're sort of saying there's some mysterious thing in the universe that's going to come along at some point in the future and make me ready,
It's sort of implied, doesn't it? Something external will change.
and then I'll be ready.
Yeah.
When you are honest with yourself and you go, I'm in a really big rage about having to do this. Now you can go, it's my rage. I can also then go, what's underneath this rage? What's the driving force in this rage? Why do I want to be in so much rage? Why is it that I'm so opposed to giving a gift to somebody else? What's going on in me that causes me to be so opposed to it? It causes you to be a bit more honest with yourself, right? But when you say you're not ready, that's not honest, right? You're basically saying there's some magical thing in the universe that's going to come along and make you ready at some point. And that's not going to happen because you're not honest. So to actually make a change, you first have to be honest and go, yeah, I'm in a rage about I don't want to do it. Why don't I want to do it? That's the next thing you need to think about is why don't I want to do it? Like love, if love of God and putting loving God first is going to bring me so many benefits into my life in the future, and I've been assured by people, not just myself, there's spirits around each of you who've tried to assure you over years that this will happen for you, if this is the case and I don't want to do it, then there's got to be something up inside of me, right? There's got to be some thing going on inside of me that causes me to be so resistive, so stubborn? What is it? And that's where I would put my energy if I felt that much rage about it. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's say you've got a person who attacks you every day. Mary and I have this happen all the time. Why don't I want to love them? If I don't love them and I feel upset with them, why don't I want to love them? I've got to look at that because as soon as I don't want to, I'm angry with them or about them, about what they're doing, right? So I need to address that. If I don't address that, now the feeling coming out of me is I don't want to. I'm stubborn now. Now we're out of harmony with all these feelings, aren't we? We're not being generous anymore. We're not having courage anymore. We're not expansive. We're not expressive anymore. We don't engage with the person anymore. We're not kind to the person anymore. We don't want to feel sensitive to their attack of us anymore. We're not open and sincere and authentic with them anymore. Generally, we all hide everything. We're not fascinated. We don't want to know them more because they've hurt us, as we say, right? But we're not feeling our hurt either. So we're not in a loving place there at all, right? We're way removed from it now. Right? So to love somebody, you've got to start to understand for yourself that loving somebody is a gift that you give them without expectation, without demand that they do anything with that gift, including receive it. They don't even have to receive it. And that should they attack you as a result of anything you attempt to give, you're going to be okay about that too. And you'll still love them. Right? And you're all ready to do it right now. You're all ready, but you don't want to. Right? So, like, love is something you can be ready for now. But not when you don't want to. When you don't want to, it might be 1,000 years from now. Yeah? And this is the problem, is that frequently we don't want to give before we get. And even when we get, many of us still don't want to give. Which is very interesting. So many times we have love demonstrated to us from someone else. And even then, under those circumstances, because we have a demand for it, we still don't want to give it to somebody else. Right? And then the alternative to that generally is we only give our love to people who love us first. And by the way, if you do that, we're going to be waiting another 10,000 years before this earth's loving place. Right? If all of us have the spirit that I'm going to wait till somebody loves me before I love them, you'll all end up alone and angry and bitter and twisted. Right? And nobody will love you still after that. In fact, it's highly unlikely they'll love you even more than they currently don't love you. The more angry and bitter and twisted you get, generally people don't like it very much. Right? So this is the problem we face with love, is as soon as the desire turns into an expectation to experience these emotions, now we're incapable of receiving them and incapable of giving them. Right? Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Was there any extension to your question? Because it feels to me the rest of the question was based on those two facts.
No, it was about sadness.
Yeah, far away.
Like, it's not okay to respond in anger when you give a gift and it's not received or wasted or
When you say
whatever.
not okay, if you give a gift and it's misused and you feel angry, you need to feel angry because that's what you
But
feel.
not.
But you need to get under the anger and see your anger is a motive to control the deeper emotion of grief inside of you about how the person's using your gift.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you don't have the right to control how they're using their gift. So your gift. So at the end of the day, your grief is all a big facade, really. At the end of the day, the fact that you're sad about how they're using your gift is indicative of the fact that you didn't really give a gift in the first place. Because if you gave a gift and they used it badly, you wouldn't feel sad about it if you truly loved them.
So it's an education, isn't it, on what is truly a gift. You're operating on the false belief that when I give a gift, it should be treated
Well,
well, and that is good and right and
not
loving.
true. God has given you so many gifts, and you're right now treating many of them badly. You look at how you treat the environment. You look at how you treat all sorts of people, all of the other gifts that you've had in your life. Many of you are already treating them badly right now, and yet God still gives them. He doesn't go, Robert, you're treating my environment badly, so I'm going to withdraw food from you as a punishment for you treating the environment badly. This is something your parent would probably do. But not what God has done. God's more interested in you correcting yourself over time, and His law is correcting you over time, rather than trying to personally punish you in some way or other. He wants your redemption, but He doesn't want your agreement without redemption, without the heart changing. Yeah. So when we give a gift to somebody else and they misuse it, we don't want to then, do things with them to manipulate them somehow, an emotion out of them. Because if we did such a thing, their heart will actually become more closed to love than it's even been before then. If we give the gift and they use it badly, then at some point in the future, they'll remember, oh, he gave me the gift, I treated it badly, but he still was kind and generous with me. Firm, this is why we need to talk about firm. Firm for the principle, but generous. Yeah. Yeah. Many of you email me asking for advice. Sometimes we reply, not much recently, because we just got too many, but sometimes we do. And there is no even response to say thank you for the gift of your time. Even. None. And does that stop Mary and I from gifting our time? Because we could go, right, pretty much everybody at some point has treated our time like it's nothing, right? Many of you do that in being here, right? Treat it like it's nothing. So does that mean if I loved you, I go, okay, I'm not giving you my time anymore? Right? If I loved you, I would continue to attempt to give you my time if I've got the ability to do so. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a gift in the first place, right? The spirit of love exists within you. In a pure state, you will not expect or demand anything from anyone else about it. And you're ready for this. In fact, you're more ready than the average person because you've been educated for 10, 15, many of you, some of you 20 years almost, about love. So you should know enough about it by now to be ready. Does that make sense, Robert? Mm-hmm. Now, I know your experiences you've only just found divine truth, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that the whole idea of you being ready is a resistive, angry, stubborn place. And you're not going to get very far with it in God's universe.
I didn't even know I said ready.
I know.
I didn't even realize it.
I know, and this is the other thing I find a lot, is that people in their angry states use words that they're often not even aware they're using while they're talking about a thing. Which is interesting. It shows you that you're not yet aware that it's the anger, like the emotive anger driving, rather than some other feeling, than a loving feeling.
Well, I know I'm angry all the time. I just don't always know what to do with it.
Yeah, well, I think you do.
No, I don't know what to do with it and still interact with people. That's the
I think you do.
Really?
Yeah, you just don't want to interact with people afterwards. You see, this is the thing that we're all letting ourselves off the hook a lot. You know, we go, this is, when I asked you what are the emotions associated with love, you were all very, very accurate in many of the emotions associated with love. Very accurate. So that tells me you do know what love feels like if it's coming to you. But how many of you do all of this with another person when they don't do that with you? We've got to get honest about this. If we were putting God first, we would also put love first, right? And this is all love. That means giving the gift of our love to others, like wanting to be. But see, as I said to Jen earlier in the morning, we are often so self-absorbed in our own emotional injuries, our memories that are painful. We're self-absorbed in them to the extent that we want all of these things from somebody else before we give any of these things to somebody else. Right? And that's our problem. In that state, you cannot receive love. You won't feel love, even when you are. You won't feel it. You end up with these big addictions going, I need this, I need this, I need this, I'm going to work for this, I'm going to do whatever I can to get it, I'm going to manipulate people, control them, I'm going to get angry with them when they don't give it to me, I'm going to punish them when they don't give it to me. You'll do all of that sin is going to be done because you've not seen that actually none of these things can be expected if you love.
And so, you know, your question, Robert, is about like, oh, well, what if I feel sad when this happens? Or what if I'm angry? But actually, if we understand, like if we're aspiring even just aspiring to the belief, emotional belief, that love is a gift, then when we feel sad or angry, we won't say it's their problem. We'll say, oh, this is something through my humility that can leave me. So, because I'm aspiring to understand that love is a gift, and this emotion is telling me, it's not a gift that just happened. But if I deal with this emotion and not expect the other person to change or blame them, then I purify my beliefs and I come to feel what real love is about. But a lot of us go, oh, but what I feel this way, or what Jen said, I've just got demands. A lot of that is saying I'm not responsible for shifting these beliefs, and other people should shift them for me. Or if I have a response, it's because of other people.
It's even worse than that, isn't it? Because you're basically saying that I've got this, you could say, black hole inside of me, and I expect Mary to fix my black hole. Right? Rather than me take responsibility for the black hole that's inside of me and fix it myself. Right.
Am I going to love even and feel my black hole? You know, this black hole's in me. Am I going to love Jesus even if I really would like him to
do what I want,
say what I
want,
make my fear go away,
whatever.
all those things? I'd really like that, but well, that's just feeding my black hole, and that's not loving him. I need to feel about that rather than demand that of him.
Yeah, fundamentally, the average person on earth believes that love should be expected. So they do believe that all of these feelings, you should be able to expect them from somebody who says to you that they love you. Right? So somebody comes along and gives you these things, you go, they love me. Right? But it's interesting because you're not actually feeling love because you have the expectation. Right? So you're not really feeling how much they love you. And this is why you keep demanding more and more and more from them. Like if someone's it's like saying, Robert, I just think you're in a bad situation. I'm going to help you out financially. I'll give you $5,000, right? The average person in that says, well, why didn't you give me 10? If you really loved me, you would have given me 10. Can you see that? That's how the average person would respond on earth. Because it's sort of like, when you're not feeling loved, what you were given was not enough. It's never enough. It's never enough. When you actually can feel love, whenever you're loved, it's enough already. So even if it's just a little bit, it's enough already. Right? Yeah. In the first century, I called that the widow's mite. There's only a certain amount of love she had the capacity to give, and she gave it. Isn't it wonderful? Makes sense? Yeah. And of course it got turned into a donation box thing, but that wasn't my intention. My intention was to see that there were certain people who gave all that they could give in the circumstances they had. the widow in question. She had a very abusive husband. She was under his total domination and control. She had no money of her own. And he died, of course, and she was left destitute. And she was then with family who criticised her and attacked her all the time. She had children that she struggled to care for and even feed. And in that, she was still generous to somebody else. She still loved somebody. Right? That's what we can do. Many of us think, oh, but I'm limited. I haven't got that much capacity. It's not true. God's given you this capacity, and by the way, the more of God's love you receive, the more capacity you'll have. Anyway, so if you receive more and more of God's love, then obviously that means that you will have more capacity to love others. You will. Right? That's a guarantee, actually. But the important thing to realise is that the love has to be a gift, and as soon as you have an expectation for it, then it's no longer one. Oh, just something.